Hello people, so today we'll be covering units in CSS and we will start off with pixels. So if you don't know what pixel is, pixels are basically dots on the screen. So one pixel is one dot or one unit, and similarly 100 pixels are 100 dots or 100 units. Now these values are absolute values. That means they do not depend upon their parents. That is, if parent has some kind of values, they do not really care about those values. They are independent. Okay. And these are going to appear same on all kinds of screens, be it cell phone or desktop or a large screen for that matter. I'll show you in a second. So simply I have index.html over here and I've connected main.css and I have an h1 that says absolute value pixels. Here, what I'm going to do is just select h1 simply, and then I'm going to say font size of, let's say, 45 pixels. I have the live server on, that is why you can see the immediate updates, and these are same everywhere. Now it's 45px, that is why it's 45px on the right side, that is the split screen. And if I do a full screen, it's same, it's going to be 45px. And for that matter, let me just open the inspect for you, click on the cell phone icon and give it 100%. It's on iPhone SE and you can see that it is still 45 pixels, you can see over here. And to show that it does not actually depend on its parent, so h1 has a parent of body, if you can in the index.html, right? So I'm going to target the body and I am going to say randomly font size of, let's say, 150px for that matter, right? And I'm going to remove this. Your h1 will still be 45px. That means it does not depend on its parent. So to recall, pixels are units that are independent, absolute, they don't depend on their parents, and are going to remain constant in all kinds of screens. So now we're going to talk about percentage, and percentage are relative units. A relative unit means it depends on the parent. And we have a little bit of math involved over here, and don't worry, but you're going to get practice once you do this, right? So what I'm going to do is I have a index.html, same main.css. So let's start. So I will have three divs in three orders. The order goes like this. I'll say dev dot superparent, and then inside that I'll have dev dot parent. You can call this whatever you want. And then I have dev dot child. Okay. So superparent is the outermost dev. Inside that we have parent, and inside that we have child. I don't have any other content. So let's go to main.css. So first, as I said, relative value depend on their parents. Absolute don't. Absolute we have discussed. It's pixels. Relative depend on their parents. So if you write something in percentage, that is if you write the value in percentage, okay, if you write, let me write the value in percentage, see the parent. Okay, I have this, I'll explain you what it is. First, I'll target the child and I'll say width of, let's say 50%. I don't want to go more. And then I'll say height is also 50%. Now you're going to say that nothing is on the screen. Might be because I don't have a background color. Let's give a background color of, let's say, blue. We don't have anything on the screen. You need to understand that why we don't have anything on the screen. That is what I said. If you write the value in percentage, you have to see the parent. Now, child has a parent of parent, and this parent does not have any kind of value, right? So what we have to do, go there and give dot parent and give width of whatever you want. I'll just give 100px for the simplicity. Okay. And then I'll give height of, again, 100px. Okay. Now you can see the child element, right? Now what the child is going to do, since it's inside the parent, it's going to take 50% of the parent, provided this person has units in pixels, right? And now what will happen, 50% of 100 is 100. So I'm going to prove you, I'm going to say this is going to be 50 and then pixels. It's a value. This value is the same. I'm going to make it 500px and I'm going to make 50%. So 50% of 500px is going to be 250, right? I hope you got it. Now, if I do 100%, it's going to take the entire width, right? And let me make even more, let me make this even more complicated just by adding color to this person. I would like to keep it 500 cross 500, and then simply put a background color of, I don't know, maybe brown. Okay. Now you can see that the parent is 500 px, the width is 500 px, height is 500 px, background color is brown, and then width is 50%, that is 250 px width, 250 px height, and background color is blue. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say 100%. Width is 100% and height is 100%. Okay. Now what happens? You saw that if I write something in percentage, see the parent. Now, child has a value of percentage. Again, I'm not going to confuse you. Child has a value of percentage. The parent should have value in pixels, but it has in percentage. It's a problem for us. So we have to look at its parent. Now that is dot super parent, if I can spell this properly. And I'm going to give width of 500 pixels and height of 500 pixels. Now we have it. Now the super parent has a width of 500 px. This is an absolute value. Now the parent is going to see that value. It's going to take 500 px, which is 100%, and height is also 100%, which is again 500 px. Child is going to take 50% of that 500 px. If I get these both, say 400 px, see, so this is going to take width of 100%, 400 px and 400 px, and the child is going to take 50% of that, which is 200. Let me make this 50 and the lower one 50 as well. It's going to be 50, right? So this is going to be, sorry, 200, so not 500, 200. And then this is going to be 50% of that, which is basically 100, right? So this is about percentage. I know it's difficult. So what you have to keep in mind is that whenever the value is relative like this, the percentage, it depends on the parent. Yes. Now the super parent is going to depend on body if this was a percentage value, right? But I'm not going to confuse. You can try it out yourself. Now it's simple. Relative value completely depend on their parent. And also if something is written in percentage, just go and check your parent. So previously I discussed about percentage and pixel values. If you don't know that, I'll definitely link that. Today we're going to learn about M and REM. And I feel M and REM are quite popular and important because it will help you for the mobile responsiveness. So here I don't have anything fancy. I have a index.html and a connected style.css. So I have a div with class main, a div with class outer, and a paragraph with class inner, which simply says let us learn MEM. So in the style.css, I've written something which I'll discuss as soon as I write code on the screen, right? So firstly, what I'll do is I'll go to index.html. I'll just have a quick look. So the inner class is called as inner. So here I'll be using dot inner, and I'll just apply a font size of 16 px. And why am I doing this? I'll click on save and I'll use the live server. So that is why you can see that there is real-time change. So 16px is the default value. Most of the browsers do have those values. So I just wanted to show you that. So immediately after this, what I'll do is I'll write 1em, okay, and that is equal to 16px in this case. So what do I mean by that? So m is a relative unit. That means it depends on the immediate parent. And in fact, it depends on the font size of the immediate parent. And m values are always calculated as value into base unit. So in this case, it's going to be 1 times base unit, that is going to be 16px, provided the parent has a font size of 16. which will be changed later, but this is the general idea. I hope you got it. So as soon as I do 2 p.m. over here, right, 2 p.m., it's going to be 32 pixels. That is 2 times the base value, which is 16px by default. Okay, so this is the basic idea. Now, to show you something, I'll go over here and I'll type on outer. Okay, and let me just adjust this, get it over here, and I'll just write outer. So outer is the outer class as we know in the index.html. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a font size of 2em. Okay, now things have changed. So what is this going to be? So this is going to be 2 times, that is the value into base unit, that is 16px. So this is going to be 32px in total, right? So this is going to be 32 pixels. I messed it up. I'm sorry for that. So it's going to be 32px. And here it's 2 times em. So what happens? So m always sees the font size of the parent. Okay, depends on the font size. You give padding, you give margin. Of course, we'll talk about padding and margin, but it depends on the font size of the parent. So here what happens? 2 into what is the base unit over here? Base unit is not 16 because the parent is 32. Okay, so it's going to be 32 pixels, and that will be equivalent to 64px. All right, you can see that the font has already increased on the left side. So in order to prove this, what I'll do is I'll remove this 2em and write 60, not 65, 64px, and you can see that it's going to be the same. Okay, so it might be a little confusing, but I get it. I'll also link a doc so that it'll help you to know M better. So next thing what I'll do is I'll talk about a little bit about padding. Of course, it's a little bit confusing, but I'll try my best. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get rid of this font size, which is there in the inner class. And I am going to say, let's choose a background. So background, let me choose purple. Okay, so we have a purple background. And to tell you that this p tag is a block level element, that is, it utilizes the entire space. So I can use margin and padding on that, no problem. So I'll use padding and I'll say 64px, for example. And you can see that there is 64px on all sides, right? Okay, now let me give the padding on the basis of m, right? So I'll just remove this outer. I'll just comment it off as of now. I don't want to confuse you. I'll just do 1em. Okay, now what is 1em? So 1 times the base unit based on the font size of the parent. Okay, so the parent font size we don't have. Just imagine, I'll just remove this. Okay, we don't have anything from the parent. It's 1 into not 32, it's 1 into 16px, and that is equivalent to 16px. Okay, now that is 1 times 16, and that is equal to 16px. Don't believe me? I'll just change it to 16px. It's going to be the same. Our parent does not have anything, so it's going to take the font size from the root. So that is why it is 16. So browsers do have 16px by default. Of course, you can change. I'll talk about that in a while. Okay, so this is 1em. So what is next? So again, I'll introduce the uh, outer, and that is going to be, I'll just say font size, because it depends on the font size, as I said. So font size is going to be, let's make math a little bit easier for us. Okay, 3 times here. So what is this going to be? So this is going to be base value 3 times 16px, and that is equal to 48, right? So here it is 1 em, so that is going to be 48, correct? So this is going to be 48px, not 448. I'm sorry for that. That's 48px. The moment I do, let's say 3em, this is going to be not 3 times 16, it's going to be 3 times 48. Okay, so it's going to be 3 times 48 pixels, and I don't know what is 3 times 48 pixels, so 8 into 4, and that is going to be 144px, right? So the padding is 144px because it depends on the parent. Now let's take it a step ahead, a step further, and let's go beyond. Okay, a little bit. So we know that the outer one has a parent called as main. All right. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to say dot main, and I'm going to say font size of 16px. 16px, not pz. 16px. Okay, is it really going to matter? It's not going to matter. What if I make it 48px? Now it's a problem, right? Because I said that 3m is 3 times its parent font size. That's 3 times for it. It's a complex calculation, but just I wanted to give you an idea. So let's make it 1em. Oh, so this is going to be 1 times 16 because our root or the browser has 16px. So to summarize, um, it's quite complicated, but I'll put it in simple terms that M is a relative unit that it depends on its parent, and not only its parent, it depends on the font size of the parent. Okay, font size of the immediate parent, and based on that, it'll get its padding or font size. So just I'm going to recall. So 1em is going to be 1 times 16 because our browser has 16px, right? What if I make this 2em? Okay, it's going to be 2 times 16. So here it's going to be 32px, right? So here it's going to be 3 times 32px. Sorry, 32. So it's going to be 3 times 32px. So it's going to be 92px in total, right? This is going to be 92px. And here, what is going to be padding or whatever margin padding you give, it's going to depend on the font size of the parent. Okay, it's going to be 3 times 92px, 92px, and 3 times 92 is 92 times 3. Uh, it's going to be 276, right? It's going to be 276px, right? So padding is, let me try 276px. It is 276px. So this is about EM. REM is quite straightforward. So it depends on the root. Let's talk about that. So what I have is the same setup that I had for M. The inner, the paragraph with class name inner, the div, which is outer, and div with the class name of main. In the CSS, I don't have anything as of now, but RAM is a relative unit that depends on the HTML tag, which is the root, and also depends on the browser. I'll show in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say dot inner and let's say font size of 2 RAM. Okay, so 2 times REM. So this is 16 by default. Okay, I forgot to write that. So 16px for media. So font size is 2 REM, that is 2 times 16, that is equal to 32px. I'll just show it. So that is 2 REM. This is easy, don't worry. And as I said, it depends on the root, that is the HTML tag. So root is HTML tag. So I'll say HTML. Okay, it's not a class name, it's a tag. And I'm going to say font size 32 pixels. And now there is a change. It's going to be 32 times 2 because the root is 32px. It's going to be 64px, right? And does it actually depend on the outer? Meanwhile, I'll just change it to, let's say, 4 REM. Bigger value, it's going to be still bigger. I'm just going to say font size of, let's say, 6 REM. Is it going to matter? It's not. It only depends on the root. Now, I wanted to talk about the second thing, that is the browser. What do I mean by this? See, we have default setup as 16px, right? This is because the font size is medium. I'll make it large. Can't refresh. Okay, it's large actually. So font size, I'll just remove this because I'm manually setting this to 32px, so it doesn't make sense. So font size is 4 rem. Okay. Now let's take this out and let's just inspect. And let me just choose this. It's 4 times rem. And can we see any HTML tag over here? Yes, we can see HTML tag. Let's see, 4 rem. So I have this appearance, and we have medium by default. Okay, I've commented out the rest of the code. I have dot inner. So font size is medium, that means 16px. Now I'll choose very large, and you can see the difference. Let me just get it on the right side. Let's say small. It's small. It's let me choose large. It is greater than 16px, and very large is still greater. So in total, what happens is it depends on the root, depends on the browser in total.
We will learn about viewport units and majorly viewport width and viewport height. So before that, I want you to understand what is a viewport. So in simple terms, the visible portion of the screen is called as viewport. For example, here you can see that there is a browser and you can see this window with a white background. This is my viewport. At any point of time, if I decrease the screen size, for example, okay, this is my viewport. Okay, this small rectangle is my viewport. So I hope viewport is very clear. And from the left point till the right point, what we call as width in general is viewport width, and top to bottom or bottom to top is called as viewport height. So if I decrease now, this will be the viewport width and this will be the viewport height. That is it. So let me just start off with h1, and I'm going to tell this is let us learn VW and VH. VW means viewport width and VH means viewport height. Okay, and then in style.css I have reset everything. I haven't used box sizing because I think here we are not going to use margin and padding much, so it's not needed. So h1, you know that it's a block level element. So what I'll do is I'll add a border. I'll say 3px solid red, right? And I'll refresh this so you can see that since the screen is converted to 50-50, that is half and half, so my viewport width is from left side to right side. Okay, as of now we will speak about it in detail. Now what I would like to do is I would like to say that my width is 50 VW. Okay, now what does this mean? Okay, I'll write a comment so that it will be very clear. 50% of what is visible on the screen. Okay, 50% of what is visible on the screen. What is visible on the screen, as I said, is viewport, right? Whatever is visible at that point in time is viewport. Now 50% of what is visible on the screen, so you can see that 100% is visible if we consider this as 100, and then 50% of whatever is visible. So this will be my 50 VW. I'll increase the screen size, and now you can see that it has increased, right? So this is the 100% of my viewport and this is the 50%. So this is the 50, this mark, correct? And now I can have 10 also. Okay, it looked dirty, but you can see that this is the 10%. So I think viewport width is actually easy to understand. So to summarize, whatever is visible on the screen is my viewport, and I can utilize how much ever I want. Now this is 10% of the total portion that is visible on the screen, and if I make this 100, you can see that it's spanning across the screen. Okay, now one more question most of the people have: does viewport change? Yes, here I have iPad Air. I have just toggled the device, and you can see that this is the 100% of what it is, and I'll inspect this. If I can select and inspect, and here you can I'll reduce this. Okay, and you can see that for that particular screen, it's 49 viewport width. 50, for example, 50% of the viewport width. So I hope viewport is very clear, the viewport width. Now let us learn about viewport height. Again, I'll split the screen. Now viewport height is also simple. For that, what I will do is I'll comment this part. I'll tell you a real use case when do we use it. So to give a better design, what we usually do is you can use section, but I'll use div, and I'll have class as 1, and I'll write this is first part, and then I'll copy this. I'll write 2 over here, TWO, and I'm going to write this is the second part. Okay, as of now you cannot see anything, but we'll use the styling. So I'm going to target the class name respective 1, and I'm going to give a background color of wheat. You can give any background color you want. So you can see that the first part is wheat, and the second one, 2, I'll give a background color of I don't know, blue. It looks dirty, but that is fine as of now for the demonstration part. And let me also give color so that you can see the font, right? Color is white. But here I want to put up a very interesting point, that let us say 100 VH is equal to 100% of what is visible on the screen, right? So I'm going to say height is 100 VH. So you can see that this will increase massively, and at this point of time 100 VH is from the top to bottom, this is 100 VH. Okay, 100% of what is visible on the screen. And the same thing I'm going to add, right? So you can see 2 scrolls, and this is a wonderful design whenever we are designing any kind of thing, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to decrease the size, correct? I'm going to decrease the size, and you can see that still, if even though the size is decreased, you can still see that the viewport height adjusts to whatever our visual portion is. Okay, that is very important to know, right? Viewport, as I said, is the part of the screen that is visible. So whenever the screen resizes, it automatically adjusts. Okay, so you can see percentage is not like this. Percentage depends on the parent. This doesn't depend on the parent. This depends on the size of the screen at that point in time, whatever it is. So if you ask me, if I switch on the device toggle and let me just choose iPhone 12 Pro, you can see that 100% of what is visible, the width and the height, it gets automatically adjusted, right? So simple. Viewport is whatever is visible on the screen at that point in time, and viewport width is again the width that is visible, and the height is also that is visible at any screen size. So I hope you liked our video. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned, subscribe to our channel.